Welcome to On Power and Peoples with Renee Malay. The show is about depth of any conversation that will be held here, as real as it is, because we are about realness. From relationships, religion, marriage, faith, philosophy, economy, politics, you name it all, honey, any subject matter that concerns you. And of course, good vibes. We are here for it. Now stay tuned for the next coming episode.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Amen Maeko on Power and Purpose, and on my right I have the elegant, the beautiful, smart, energetic Renee Malay. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm so great.
Thank you very much for being great. I was just making sure that you're great, but I know you are.
Yeah, man. I am great. It's that time of the month.
Okay, let me not say anything.
No. It's that.
No, I'm not gonna
my
say
favorite
anything
days,
about. Oh,
basically. Yeah,
okay.
it's my favorite
All right.
days,
Okay, but I just had to say. Let me just be silent.
All right. So today we are going to be talking about breaking silence.
Yep.
What comes to your mind when I say the word? Like
Right.
breaking silence.
Silent.
Silence.
This is what
breaking the silence.
This is what comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for it. And then I start speaking. That's how I break the silence.
Oh wow. All right. So my topic is actually based on families.
Yeah.
It's based on how we can be able to break the silence that we are taught that respect is silence. And we aren't taught to express ourselves respectfully.
Yeah.
But we are told to keep quiet so we can show respect, and we often grow up not being able to speak in circumstances that we feel uncomfortable in, because we are taught at home that you need to keep quiet. You know what I mean? So I feel that if we can be in a place where as children we are able to express how we feel respectfully, so
Yep.
but we're able to speak. You know what I mean?
I get you.
And
yes.
we aren't shut down when we are able to speak.
Yeah.
So I have quite a few scenarios of people that when I spoke about this topic, they were like, all right, please, this is my circumstance and this is how the silence has affected me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, I understand the fact that, a lot of us, we grow up with its tamed obedience or highest level of respect or reverence, but in essence, it affects our willpower and our deepest expression. Because one thing that I've realized is that it's not okay, it's not normal to oppress a humble man's opinion. So now when our folks, because I have a thing with inheritance, right? Our parents have inherited the state of saying a child will forever be silent until an older person speaks, and that's how they were raised. So they were sustaining that notion to say, as a parent, when I speak, you must keep quiet and listen to me. So somehow that really it solidified them as parents. Do you understand? So, but then if you translate it to this generation, we perceive that as a barrier. So now the fact that there's so much silence between parents and their kids, I have thought of it as a way of not finding a way to bridge the gap. So now, at the same time, if a child does not express how they feel or how they should articulate themselves in a good way to parents, they somehow feel in bondage. They somehow feel boxed to their emotions and everything. But then in essence, the reactions that they're gonna produce, they somehow become opposite to what the parents have expected, because when a parent speaks, they assume that the child understands. So now when the child has to speak back, I mean in a respectful manner, that is, somehow they feel a bit challenged, you understand? But then the aim is to find a bridge or a way to bridge this gap between I'm an old person and you are to listen to whatever that I'm saying. because by so doing, the opinions and all the feelings and everything that the child has are being boxed within them. So, but then if there is a way that the child will be able to unleash all of that, now it creates a very healthy and very great relationship between parents and kids.
I know for sure of so many people who have grown up, who have grown in families where they were not allowed to speak because them speaking, them not speaking meant respect. Okay, but there's also about the thing about parents when they feel that when they speak, however to you, it means power to them. You know what I mean? And it's like now there's like a competition that I'm more powerful and you must listen to me because I'm the oldest. You know what I mean? And we then raise young boys who learn that behavior and get to be in marriages where they get to learn that I'm the oldest and you're going to listen to me. You know what I mean? So it's like a pattern that just never stops. You know what I mean? That I feel that if it were for me, if I were to choose a place or how my parents would educate me, it will definitely be in speaking than and less of shouting and less of spanking, you know what I mean? But more of communication, because one thing for sure, here's the thing about parents, they expect perfection from you. When you start to understand that this is a human being and I'm raising a human being, then you're able to communicate with them in a level of humanness. Is there anything like that? Yeah. So I remember saying this, that there's so many of our parents who aren't obedient to God. You know what I mean? And thing about obedience is when you take from God, you're able to pour to the kids.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you take from what the world says, what the neighbors says, how you should parent your children, it starts affecting the relationship that you have with your kids.
I get
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So now you start trying to box them, and now you start to trying to chain them so that the society can see that my children are respectful. But how are you communicating with them? Because when we were growing up, respectful kids were the ones that were silent. You know what I mean? So no matter what the uncle does to you, no matter how you'd even get raped, you wouldn't be able to speak up. You know what I mean? Because then you are raised to be silent. So now older people start using their power against you and not to teach you.
Yeah, I get what
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as we grow up, when you start being so scared of speaking up, you start being scared of addressing issues, because this is what you were never taught at home.
Yeah, you were
How
not
then
taught
do
given
you
the
expect
platform.
me to address issues when I'm with my friends? That here's the thing, I'm not feeling comfortable with what you do to me. You know what I mean? And most of the time we are able to express ourselves only when we are angry. But can we do it when we are not angry?
Yeah.
Can we break the silence when we are not angry? Can we do it when we are calm, in calm situations, and be able to express how you feel, how we feel?
Yeah.
And also, I also believe that if we're able to speak, to listen to our children tell us the truth. I remember there was this moment where my daughter was, I was like, you must look for your own shoes. I'm not going to look for your own shoes. And I think a week before then, I asked her to look for my shoes. And she was like, but why do you want me to help you while you're not willing to help me as well? And that really got to me. I'm like, all right, there's a pattern of how I was raised. Just because she's younger does not mean that she must help me, and just because I'm older does not mean that I must not help her. You know what I mean? And that's when I realized that actually this has to be broken. This cycle has to break, you know, and it has to end with me. I need to be able to communicate and to listen when I'm being told the truth by my child. Because most cases, even though you may address things, you may speak, but you may speak in a respectful way. For the fact that parents are not willing to hear the truth from their kids, to hear that what you did not, it wasn't a good way of saying it. To hear that from a child, it makes them feel powerless of their position.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So they then have to be so defensive that you're not going to speak to me like this, you're not going to tell me like this,
Yeah.
you're not going to tell me all this kind of things because I am older. But what
Yeah.
does the truth say? Why can I correct things as a mother? Why can I do better as a mother? How then do I make things better so that my children can be able to express themselves
That's right,
to
yeah.
me? You know what I would? Because if they're able to express themselves to me and they're able to speak up at home, then they definitely can be able to speak up even outside.
Yeah, the way that you have propelled them to.
Yes.
Because now what comes to my mind as you're speaking, it's the fact that respect needs to be defined. As far as I'm concerned, respect is not one dimensional. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. Consider respect as an object, right? A tangible thing. If I gave you respect, what do I have? What am I left with? Nothing, because I gave it to you. So what are you to do now? You have to give it back. So respect, if respect is we consider respect as an object, I give it and you must also give it. That's a two-way street. However, when we perceive it as a one-way street, when I give you respect, I don't have any, right? And then I expect you to respect me, but I'm not really sustaining that respect, then it becomes very much it becomes very much detrimental, if I may put it that way. So now remember that that's how I perceive respect, as a two-way street. Now, when it comes to kids, for them to be vocal, it starts at home, parenting. Now, parenting, as far as I'm concerned, it's pair. So the pair of a male person and a female, in that they come together with their contractual means and say, this is how we're going to raise our kids. So are we going to let them express their freedom? Are we going to let them be them however they can? You understand? So now that's for the pair, the parenting, the coming together from of a female and a male. So now if you are a single person, so parenting is of two elements, of course. It's paternal and maternal. If you are a mother and yet you're single, you want to sustain your value to your child, as maternal parent who's alone, materialize in a good way because you are maternal. So you have to materialize in a good way. That's how I see it. Now, if you are a single man, you have a child and you want to expand your values on your child and how your child should be, that's paternal. So participate in your child's doing, and that will simplify how a child will be groomed. Now, one of it is to let your kids be vocal. Teach them how to be vocal. Understand that speaking is not just us making the sound. It's what we think before we say it. You understand? So the importance of speaking is that you take a child and you tell them, yo, this is how important it is for you to voice out in a good way. First of all, speaking is not just an element of you making sound so that everybody can hear you. How you articulate yourself affects the next person. And before you speak, you must understand there are a few organs which are involved in you speaking. So for you to speak otherwise without reverence simply means you are dishonoring your own self, your own organs, which is a compound of system. You understand? So if we tell the kids, look, for example, if I tell you now, before I would speak like this, my lips were involved. But if I were to give you the process, it will make sense. Now, before I speak, my lungs, it starts with my lungs. I need to breathe. I cannot speak without breathing. Now, as I breathe, the esophagus carries the oxygen, or the inhaling goes. There's the process of breathing, which is inhaling and exhaling, right? So the esophagus takes that process to make it manifest. Then it gets to the voice box. My voice box channels the vibration of the breathing process. From there, the voice box will translate it into my tongue. My tongue molds the words. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, as the tongue molds the words, my lips will project whatever that is being molded by my tongue. So that's how important it is. So if I was to speak nonsense, I need to understand that I have defiled all these organs. Do you get what I'm saying? So if we are to teach kids that, before you speak, think through it, so that it affects the next person. Now, the challenge with our parents is that they never really got to put us in a table and say, this is how you should articulate yourself. Matter of fact, we know that thinking is a process which is affected by the environment. So they don't channel us on how to think, because what we think is what we're going to say to them. So for them to have much power on us is when they impose the state of quietness, to say, listen, I'm going to talk to you. You just have to bear what I'm saying. Respect that. So we don't consider respect as respect, but as power imposed, and that we feel that it brings more burden to the child. So, but if we teach our kids how to be vocal, it really it will reflect to them as a respectful measure, and that's how they will be able to look at how you. I'm just concerned about how you look at me.
No,
But then it will teach them that, this is how respect is. It's two-way street. So be vocal in a good way. If you want to be a liberal in a state that your thinking does not affect the next person in a bad way, but in a good way. So never defile yourself as you speak. That's how I see
think also
it.
one of the greatest challenges that children do have, is being so scared of hating their parents, because they see and they know that their parents are doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
And then how then do I tell the person who's doing the best that she can to parent me that I don't like how you treated me in this way and that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't want to, so they try to protect their parents, that I'm not going to tell my mother, or I'm not going to tell my dad
Yeah.
how he treated me, affected me,
Yep.
because I don't want to hurt her emotions. Now, we never have that place of expressing our feelings, because we tend to be so fearful of what are they going to think of themselves. And suddenly there's some parents, and most parents, who can't take the truth. Immediately when you start expressing your feelings, they're like, oh, so now you've grown, you might as well just get out of the house. Oh, so now you've grown, you might as well do this and this and this. Don't talk to me. You know what I mean? Don't. So it's like they never want to learn from their mistakes, or from the emotions of their children. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I get
They
what you're
only
saying.
are willing to learn, and it's when a child becomes so rebellious, it's they start having to look at, okay, what could I have done wrong? But you really don't have to get to that point where you're rebellious for them to pay attention to the feelings that you are feeling, the emotions that you are feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have quite few people that, when I spoke about this conversation, they're like, I don't have a good relationship with my mother, because her way was always her way.
Yeah.
And nothing else can stop her. Even if it hurt us, even if it really destroyed us, her way was her way. You know, whatever she wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you had no say. So if she wants, and they can be very manipulative. So if the parents want something, it's like, you don't have any say. You are the youngest. Give me this. You know what I mean? They feel so entitled to the things that you have, that I raised you, I've taken care of you. Now give me this. You know what I mean? And if you don't give it, it's like, oh, you're respectful, don't talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
Because they understand the importance of the relationship of a mother and a child.
Yeah.
And they know that without them, we always going to need them. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that I believe that if we can learn to speak and to give our kids a place to express themselves without having to shut them down and be like, you're not going to speak, you are the youngest. Because parents become, this is one thing that really hurts, that they become so prideful that they are able to say, my child does not speak when I speak.
Yeah.
My child does not speak when I say this to her.
Yeah.
But it's, you don't know what you have put in her. You know what I mean?
Okay,
You
yeah.
don't know what you've planted in her. The words that you've said to her that are silently growing inside of her. You don't know them. Why? Because you've never given them the platform to express how they feel back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've never taught them to express themselves. So no matter how hard, how harsh you may have been to them, they're not going to come to you. They're going to take those words and swallow them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get you,
Because
yeah.
how then do I tell you back that what you're saying is not right? If
Yeah.
you are not giving me the platform to express how I feel. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to get deep in it, swallow it, and life goes on. But it's going to continue to hurt me. You know what I mean? It's going to continue to break me silently.
I get what you're saying.
know.
Because now that questions the level or the maturity of how parents should be. Because now you need to understand that parenting is not a military-based institute. That's not what parenting should be. We are not at war to start with. Because now if parents start by implementing militant procedures or military measures on kids, now that's just an inclination of war. And to start with, parenting is not war. We are not at war.
Yeah.
We are in a relationship.
Yes.
So how are we relating in this ship that we are aiming to cross over to the shore? Because that's what it is. So imagine we come together, and as we come together, we have a destination. So through this process, this journey, we have the aim is to get to the next shore. So why then do we start by military procedures or military measures? So, like I'm saying, we need to question what parenting is, because at the end of the day, kids cannot be raised in such environment. Do you get what I'm saying? That's how I really feel, that kids aren't supposed to be raised in an environment where there is war. Psychologically, it will affect the kids. Now, that behavior will be sustained outside, especially in schools or in the streets, because they are getting the energy that, you know what, we are at war. So if a child is at war with their parents, what are the chances that when they get outside, there won't be war? They will want to sustain the very same elements of war. So parenting shouldn't be war zone. That's not what it's supposed to be.
That's true. There's also this thing of a favorite child that really affects kids, and they grow up thinking that they're not worth it. They grow up thinking that they're not enough. They grow up thinking that they're not appreciated, they're not seen. You know what I mean? And they can't express that simply because there's no platform at home for me to express this. There's no way that I can tell my mother that I don't like how you treat me and how you treat the next person better. And I think also, if parents get to understand the effects that the favorite child thing has to kids, you know what I mean, that can we improve in treating our kids the same?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it hurts as much as you can be like, oh, I'm my dad's favorite, I'm my mom's favorite, and then there's a middle child. As you know, there's there's so many stories of middle kids who and they're really coming out right now, you know. But then there's this middle child who's like, okay, I'm nobody's favorite, and then you start feeling like, do I even belong in this place? You know what I mean? And then we start going back to the previous conversation that we had. You start getting desperate to fit in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you are not accommodated. Your behavior is not accommodated at home. Your character is not accommodated at home. You know what I mean? But I also feel that if our parents can be able to take in the truth and to learn from it, you know what I mean? That it does not mean that you're a bad parent.
Yeah.
You just never addressed issues like this correctly. Now, can you go back and try to be better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think one of the things also that I've learned with being a teen mom is that parenting needs somebody who's emotionally matured.
Or stable.
Yes. Because most of the time we're taught that be financially stable first, but being emotionally stable is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you're emotionally stable, you're able to understand children's emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're able to be patient with them. You know what I mean? You don't shut them out. You know what I mean? You become so patient with who they're becoming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you water the seed, slowly water the seed. Now, the difference is that we don't get watered in the manner of patience. It's like, I taught you this, now become this. You know what I mean? But parenting takes so much patience that you must constantly water the seed that you were growing. You know what I mean? So that it can become what God had intended for the seed to grow. You know what I mean? But as soon as you start having an expectation of what your child must be, you're starting to box the child. You know what I mean? You're starting to shut the child down, that don't even speak, this is what I want you to do. Don't even speak, this is what I want you to become. Don't even speak, this is... Now you end up not living your life because now there's an expectation and the ideas that your parent has created for you to become. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you end up becoming what your parents wanted, not what you wanted. And simply because you could not break the silence.
I get what you're saying. Because now you have to also understand that the whole thing challenges the leadership of what a parent should be or what a parent is. And I'm not saying that I'm against parents. I'm just against inheritance that's not conducive to anybody, whether kids or neighbors or anybody, workplace or business places or corporate, whatever the division is. It's just that I need us to understand that whatever people have inherited, if it's not good, let's cut it out. So leadership, parents' leadership should also be of the high essence. There's types of leadership. And with your leadership, what do you expect to achieve in that? So if you want to be this non-democratic leader, obviously there's going to be a lot of confusion within your household. Now, favoritism is based on acts of people. All right. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with favoritism. The only challenge I have is nepotism, because that's the highest level that makes things even obvious. I can favor my first child because I feel that the child has made me to become a parent, but that does not mean I'm showing nepotism, because nepotism is whether you do wrong or right, I will still take you in. But favoritism is a matter of I favor you based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you get what I'm saying? So now, if I favor you, when you do wrong, I must also say this is wrong. When you do right, I must also say you are wrong. When you wrong, you're wrong. When you right, you're right. That's what favoritism is. But this does not mean the next person is being favored less. It's just that there's measures to this. But not nepotism. I say that's completely off. If I have 3 kids, for example, the one that I favor the most, for example, she's offline. When I say offline, I say, let me say, for example, she comes home late. She takes the car with her. The level of her demeanor is not what I have anticipated, of what I have advocated, that I have taught her to sustain. Now, if I advocate that she goes on with that, that's nepotism. And the problem with nepotism is that the other one will pick it up and say, why is Shanaz is doing wrong, but daddy's advocating that. Now, this makes this one a bit jealous on to have a very wrong picture about how my leadership is. So, but my leadership should be to incorporate all the kids, so that the energy that I feel that they should have should be passed on to each and every one of them, and let them be what they want to be, especially in terms of being vocal. Can you say I'm vocal?
Yeah, you are very much.
I am vocal, right? But growing up, I was never this vocal. I was always thoughtful until I had to wait for the time to express how I think. Do you get what I'm saying? In that way, it has given me a lot of time to articulate my words very well. Before I speak, I think a lot. It might take me 2 days to address a matter. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a very good skill. It's something that I'm really, I'm currently teaching myself. And I remember having a conversation with my little sister. I'm like, we need to start communicating better. And simply because we're from a household where speaking is yelling. Where speaking is and now you don't get to think because you act on anger. Honestly,
the level of emotion is not well carried.
Yeah,
you can't sustain your emotion in a way that there's balance.
Exactly. So I'm literally, I've taught myself to calm down, and I'm teaching myself to calm down first and to think, what am I saying, and what does that say about me and the person that I'm becoming? If I'm going to shout back, if I'm going to be like this, I've learned, and I'm still teaching myself to be very calm, because I'm from a household, like I said, where literally there's shouting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
take the cup, take the mark.
You know what I mean?
It's just shouting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know. So it's like there's never been a calmness where my mother's like calm, like let's just have a conversation. Let's talk about this. Even when we're not fighting, just having conversation.
Simple conversation.
You know what? Because it's the environment that I come from. But it takes a lot to realize that I don't like the person that I am. I need to think first before I speak. I need to think first before I shout. You know what I mean? So, and here's the thing: yelling, it comes from not thinking, because now your emotions are just everywhere. You're like, ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when you're calm, you're able to educate. Honestly, when you're calm and when you teach in a calm manner, you're able to educate. You know what I mean?
Like
I
as you-
teach my daughter much better when I'm calm than I am when I'm loud and I'm angry. I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So when you just take time and then you just calm, because the energy that I'm giving to her, it's
She's
what's
gonna
going to come back
she
to me.
reciprocates.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes.
So you can't want your child to be like
What you don't
"No,
like.
but-" you know. So you then can't want your child to be calm when you aren't teaching anything about calmness. You know what I mean? So they definitely are going to take the energy that you're giving them back. You know. So that's why we have kids who are vocal, but they don't know how to be vocal, because the energy that has been given to them, they take it back in that way.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
So now here I am. I don't know how to express myself, but I can only do it based on what I'm being taught and what I see. You know what I mean? So if you shout at me, I take it back as well. I'm like, no, but I said no, I did not do this.
Yeah, there's so much.
You know what
going
I
on.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I said no, don't do this. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, there's no any communication. It's just
Yeah.
two people yelling at each other and saying horrible things to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you really have to just go back and say that, how can I break this silence? You know what I mean? And how then do I express myself? And also as parents, to be able to listen to what their kids are saying and to be able to take in the truth, because what I feel about you, as much as it hurts you, you have to just acknowledge it if you do know that it's true, you know,
Yep.
and correct yourself.
Yep.
Don't say, oh, I'm not going to talk to you because you said when I talk to you like this, it hurts you. So from now on, me and you are not talking. That's being manipulative. That's not wanting to grow. That's not wanting to be a better parent. That's not wanting to be a better person as well. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, because what you're saying really triggered what I think I've said before, because this is what I normally say, that, you know, maturity is not a state of age. It's really it really isn't. It's a matter of how well you have groomed yourself, or you've been groomed by the environment. And being childish is not an insult. If I say that person is childish, I'm not insulting the person. I'm just giving the state of mind that this person is, that the person has. So now, if we switch from being childish to adulthood, the thinking changes. We enter into a chamber of change, a definite chamber of change that serves the purpose of adulthood. Now, this is a sequence that an adult operates in. An adult thinks, understands what they thought, and they speak. Do you understand? So now, before you say anything, you have processed that in your mind,
Yes.
and then after processing, you digest it very well. You discern it. That's understanding. Then you speak it freely with confidence. But the same is it's the opposite when it comes to kids, right? It's the opposite when it comes to kids, rather. Now, kids speak, they understand, and they think afterwards. Do you get what I'm saying? So now, if I am to yell at a child, what does that say about me? I have failed to understand what I was supposed to say. I lacked a proper articulation in whatever that I wanted to say. Rather, I expressed it. Nothing wrong with expression, but okay, in this case, I gesticulated it. Sorry for my English, but I had to.
We know what we know. We gonna have some dictionary right here.
That's what it is. If you cannot articulate your wording, you're gonna gesticulate it, and it becomes very much offside, because now it challenges who you are, and the next person's gonna wonder: Are you really matured? Do you wanna grow? You should challenge how you think, because we cannot teach you how to think, but we can make a platform on how you should think. The environment makes us think. Do you get what I'm saying? So think through it, understand it, and speak it well. That's what also Paul said. He said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I understood like a child, and I thought like a child. But now I'm an adult, I have matured. So the opposite must take place. so that the kids can also reciprocate what we are giving them. Imagine if I spoke like this to a child. What do you think the child was going to do? The child was going to listen and wonder and ask me certain questions. In that way, I have made a platform for the child. Even for a normal person or adult, I have made a platform for you to think about what I'm saying. But I'm not teaching you how to think. I'm making a platform. So if I make you a platform of, giving you a platform for you to think, you will think through it before you do it.
That's true.
Do you get what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I think that's also one of the attributes that I would like us to sustain in the environment. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think when you're saying this, I honestly do want to have a speak table. So I have this with my daughter where I'm just like, okay, cool. So today you're going to express to me how you are feeling.
Yeah.
Tell me, where can I change? How can I do better?
Yep.
But I think as a child, she's like, just buy me this.
She just want candies.
And I'm just like, dude, I want to know so that I can be a better parent.
Yeah.
Where do you think that I need to change as a parent? She's like, no, you're fine. You're good. And I'm just like, dude. Because I want to learn so that I can be a better parent.
Yeah,
you know,
I get what you're saying.
I want her to tell me
and
the
as
truth.
a single mother,
exactly.
you are maternal. So materialize in good measures.
That's true. So that's just one of the things that I never want her to feel like, as much as I'm not going to be perfect, but I want her to feel comfortable in expressing herself. Because when I do it, and I say to her that I do it when I'm in a calm situation. Because I realize one thing that I've been acting on all these years, right, is that I used to act out of anger. So you make me angry, I will listen. I would say things until, like I said, until recently when I just had a conversation with my sister. It was last year, and I'm like, I don't think I like how we are, because we are just three bunch of people who express their feelings in an angry way. You know what I mean?
Animal behavior.
You know what I mean? It's like,
oh.
And I'm just like, we say horrible things to each other because we are angry. Can we calm down and talk about things like adults?
Yeah.
And it has been good so far. It has really affected our relationship positively, because when she's about to speak and I'm like, keep quiet. And when I'm about to speak as well, she's like, looks at me. And then we know that we then have to go back and just calm down. Because there's honestly nothing good like speaking out of anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of the things is this. The behavior that you learn at home, you're going to do it outside. So when you get into the environment where people are not treating you respectfully, you're going to respond out of anger.
Yeah.
Not
we
in
mimic
a comment.
it.
Exactly.
It's the laws of mimicking.
Exactly. And when we get to places, I used to be very shy when I started working, and I'm like, how do I tell my boss that I want to go on and leave? How do I tell my boss that I'm not going to come today? I'm sick. So you now get to be so scared to express how you feel. How do I then tell my boss that I want more money than what she's given me? How do I tell my boss that I don't like the position that she's given me? Can she give me a permanent job? So you now start becoming to be so scared of expressing yourself, of speaking up in situations that you should, because you believe that if I'm quiet, my boss is gonna like me, and that means that I'm very respectful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we then have to break the silence of not being able to speak in places that we feel oppressed in. You know what I mean? Because silence means there's, where there's silence, I feel like when you are pressed to be silent, emotionally, you become vulnerable, you become toxic, you become very scared. You are not confident as well. Your self-esteem as well, because you are used to being in this shell that it was created for you to live in. You know what I mean? So I remember this other time when I was telling my mom, I'm like, I don't want lobola. I feel that if me and my husband have to come together, I want to do things for my mom to a point where she does not feel that the lobola money has to do for her.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to be lobola. And she's like, that's culture. And I'm like, who's culture? You know what I mean? Because I was at a season where I feel like, and I'm still at it, where I feel like we need to break culture that, especially the culture that oppresses, that if my husband and I want to get married, then he must go still and make the amount of money that you want as lobola. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because of I'm a Christian and I take sex outside marriage very serious. So I feel like, so must we wait for 10 years to be rich so that we can afford the lobola money? You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I get to communicate about. It's just like, ooh, you're very disrespectful. But that's when I realized that for as long as we are parented by people who don't want to learn from us as well, then I still think that we have a long way to go. Because if you learn from how I see things and you understand from how I see things, you're going to understand the importance of me speaking up. You know what I mean? And you're not going to take that as disrespect. You're going to understand that actually she's right, or no, she's not right. And the reason why I'm saying that you're not right, Renee, is because of this and this and this and that. Not, oh, you're not gonna do this. You're not gonna speak to me like this. Then you're disrespectful. You know what I mean? You're not gonna say that you don't want lobola. You are you are now being
Now,
shut out.
can I ask? Are you at that state? Are you guys shouting? Or-
Listen, the conversation we are just never.
because you say
No,
at your place
there's
so
just
much noise
no.
going on.
I'm just
You
like,
break the
and
silence
we're
by making
communicating.
noise.
Listen, we are communicating at that moment, but you're like, no, do you know what the lobola is for? And then now it's a healthy conversation, but now because of the
This
loudness,
aggression,
you know what I mean? And then it now just comes in this way. You're just like, oh my God, shouldn't we be sitting down and teaching each other of what lobola means to you and what lobola means to me as well? You know what I mean? And educate each other of the importance of it and the not importance of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a continuous thing that really needs so much work for you to break it.
Yeah.
You know, and it needs so much self-aware for you to break it.
That's
You know
right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I just feel like I want to break it for my kids. You know what I mean? I want to break it for my sisters.
Yeah.
But there's another thing about a behavior that has been accepted for years.
Yeah.
It's so hard to change.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, but
so hard to change.
But it's, to be honest, it's up to us. We should stop blaming others. It starts with whoever says, I don't want this anymore. You understand?
Definitely.
Or else we're going to be the victims of society that's given. If we're going to sustain what we don't appreciate, we become the victims of that. And that will make us point fingers and say, my dad, my mom, my cousin,
Yes,
my
definitely.
sister, my. So I'm saying it's up to us. Let's stop blaming people.
Yeah.
All right? Let's take a stand.
To be aware. It's up to you to start being aware of what needs to be changed.
Yes.
And to be the change that you want to see in your
take
home.
take a stand. If you feel that you want to break the silence in a good way, please advocate goodness, because at the end of the day, human beings are only what we have. So if you appreciate how I speak to you, sustain that. If you don't confront me in a manner that I would also feel like, you know what, that person, because this is me. When I see you, I see myself in you. Therefore, I'm gonna give you the respect that you need.
That's
because
true.
I feel that you are me and I am you. So that's I only have you and the viewers. And when we meet, I am them. Do you understand? So let's stop pointing fingers and make sure that we make things right, and that which we say is right will definitely bring liberation in terms of how we see things and in our mental state.
Also, this is okay. There's also a difference between pointing fingers and looking back at what caused this behavior
Yeah.
and what I can change. So it's always good to go back in your life and to realize, how am I like this? Why am I like this? What has contributed to me
Yes.
to be like that? And if you can then go back and fix it. Meaning that you
Recreation.
can go back to your parents and fix the relationship.
Sure.
Or you can continue fixing it in the relationship and the generation that you are
Yes.
in. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's
so
right.
you can't say that I'm disrespectful because my mother taught me like this. And that's actually, I was looking at this thing yesterday of this episode, and this one parent who was like, the child behaves exactly like the mother. exactly like the mother.
Mhm.
And she's like, I'm like, that's because of her.
Yeah.
And there's two brothers who are so calm. But you're like, if the brothers are calm, you can also teach yourself to be better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to date you when you are this bitter person. So it's so important to work on yourself. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
be the change that you want to see. So, yeah, man, I think we're just going to end it like this. Is there anything that you would like to say before we close up?
Let every human being respect another human being, so
Mm,
that we can break the cycle of bad inheritance. Because
mm,
that's why we only have ourselves to manifest such greatness, and let the
mm,
universe reciprocate to what we give it, so
mm.
that we can all live in harmony.
That's true.
So bad silence is not good. To be silent in a state that you have to be silent is good, but the oppressed silence will inflict so much pain. So be
Mm.
vocal, but before then, think through it, understand, and let the people tap into your greatness, which is the good energy.
All right, that's very true. Oh, wow, that's preach it, boo. Preach it, preach it, preach
Thank
it. Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap it up, and in closing, I'm just gonna say that can we be able to communicate with our parents in a way that they're able to see themselves and what they can correct so that they can be better, and can we also be better people as well? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So uh, break the silence in a way that let there be communication. Don't bottle things up. Don't bottle things to a point where they start defining who you are. But be able to express yourself so that you can speak up and be a better person. You know what I mean? Because suppressed feelings, they definitely do cause bitterness.
Yeah.
So you don't want to look at yourself as this bitter person because you were never given the platform to express yourself as a child or to express yourself as an adult. You know what I mean? So be vocal, but most importantly, learn how to communicate. You know what I mean? Because there's just a bunch of people who really want to express their feelings, but they don't know how to do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So do it in a calm manner. Do it when you're not angry. Do it when you are free from this anger that you have. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just it. Be calm at all times before you communicate. That's it. Please do like, subscribe, and share these videos. It's also good. It also is good for parents. So if you want your parent to listen to it, you can just play it for her. And yeah, man, that's it. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye. Thank you very much. Bye.